The NBA Finals tip off tomorrow night. Very much looking forward to that series. The Stanley Cup Finals right down here in Sunrise, Florida. That gets underway on Saturday night. The Panthers taking on the Edmonton Oilers. Greg Cody will join us at 11:15 to talk about the overrated Connor McDavid. Mike Breen is with us, voice of the NBA, voice of the NBA Finals. Sean McDonough is with us. He will be calling the Stanley Cup. Sean, I will start with you. Do people who have never been to Sunrise, Florida, Sean, do they think Sunrise, Florida is paradise?
Absolutely. 100%. It's a great place. We're looking forward to getting back down there.
Dan couldn't be here, by the way, because he's interviewing part 2 of his interview with George Sedano out in L.A., so he could not make it. I apologize. And Mike Breen seems to be very upset by this. He thinks I duped him, and I did not.
Bamboozled, he said.
Bamboozled, but Mike has been on with me so many times without Dan, and I'm surprised that I got the reaction that I got, Mike. I'm hurt.
Well, we didn't find out that Dan wasn't going to be on until about 15 minutes before. I tried to cancel.
I didn't think it mattered. Yeah.
I changed my mind. By the way, Sean's background
amazing.
is so much better than mine. Already I'm number 2 here. I mean, that's just a place to be.
I would like to say this. I know Mike's very upset that Dan isn't on here, and he texted me and said he was going to not do this, and I talked him into it, so we're there.
You're my guy, Sean.
He's been on like 18 times with you guys. So this is the first time I've ever been on, and apparently I can't be on by myself. I have to be on with the legendary Mike Breen and the NBA to get a chance to be on this legendary show.
I'd also say, Mike, don't sell yourself short. It's blurred, but you seem to have great crown molding behind you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But let me tell you something. Mike is in the nicest hotel in Boston, regardless of how the background looks. Which, on the hockey beat, we don't always stay at some of these 5-star places. There are a lot of 5-star choices, as you alluded to, in Sunrise. So there's that. But we don't always get to stay at the 5-star places.
How'd you guys, if you don't mind me asking, and I'm not certain if you guys actually got together for dinner last night, but Sean has to get finger surgery. He made it to dinner. He's getting it today, by the way. He told me that. And he's getting it today.
Not flipping off you or your
Oh, I love that. Can you give me the finger right now, please? I want to see that.
That's one of the great things. I get to hold the mic on national TV like this. And friends of mine say, you're flipping off North America. No, it's just, I don't know about you, Mike, but I'm so used to holding the mic with my right hand. The producer would say, can't you just hold it in your left hand? But I can't.
Listen, it's not a coincidence that that's the finger. It's from overuse of using it at so many people over the past.
But I'm wondering.
You know what's the problem? I cannot legally drive now in Boston since I can't use my middle finger. That's.
But I am wondering here, guys, because you were supposed to have dinner. I don't know if Mike made it. I know Sean did. Now he's here doing the interview. He has to get surgery. He's a hockey announcer. That's a hockey announcer, okay? Did Mike Breen make dinner last night?
By the way, with a nod, Stugotz, to the hockey playoffs, and probably to the NBA playoffs as well, I'm referring to this as a mid-body injury. We're not allowed to be specific about injuries. It's an appendage problem.
Got it.
And by the way, Sean, don't feel obligated to call him that name. I refuse to call him that. It's Jonathan. That's how you should.
Jonathan.
Wow. Only my mom called me Jonathan, but I'm good with it. Yeah, I'm good with it. So did Mike Breen make it out to dinner?
Mike, I actually crashed Mike and Doris's dinner.
Wow.
They were sort of the warm-up for me, and then I went over, and because nobody else would do this, I had dinner with PJ Carlesimo. So I just stopped by to say hi to Mike and Doris.
PJ, one of the nicest people I've ever met.
No,
you get out more.
That's not true.
Okay. I'm sorry. What has PJ done to scorn both of you? I mean,
no, you're right. He's a great friend to both of us. He's a great friend to anybody. But his dinners last 4 to 5 hours, and if you have a game coming in the coming days, it really cuts into your preparation time.
When you guys as broadcasting legends go to dinner together, do either of you ever order a meal and beforehand you order different meals and decide, I'm going to eat half of this meal and you're going to eat the other half and we're going to split it and combine our meals?
Well, first off, when we have dinner, this has become a tradition. The entire dinner we talk in our announcer voice.
Yes.
Just feel it's better when we do with talking to each other, talking to the waiters. It's all part of the preparation.
Mike enjoyed the appetizer last night, and when the waiter came over to ask how everything was, he said, which always gets a great reaction. So we do speak. And you know what? The problem when play-by-play people get together is, one time I did a game with Jay Billis on a Saturday night, and then we were driving from Duke up to Virginia to do a game Monday night. So I mentioned to a friend of mine, Jay and I are just going to drive up to Charlottesville Sunday. And my buddy said, who's going to listen? And that's sort of the problem when play-by-play people get together for dinner. There's just a lot of simultaneous talking.
I'll have the bang, bang shrimp.
Breen, have you ever done that? Please say yes.
I'll say that's not the first time I've heard that joke.
You crushed him. He's left the room. He felt so good about it, Mike.
He really is cranky that Dan's not here. I wasn't really believing that at first. But
I am wondering, because I've asked athletes this before, and sometimes you'll hear other athletes ask, hey, if you could take one thing from another athlete, what is the thing that you would take? So I will ask you this as play-by-play guys. Mike, if there is something from Sean McDonough's play-by-play ability that you could take and implement into your game, what would it be?
All right, I'm going to be serious here for a minute. I'm glad you brought that up, because this guy is as good as anybody in our business, and it's because of his versatility. You think you find me a guy that does football, college and pro, hockey, baseball, basketball at an elite level. He does all sports at an elite level. I'm blown away. I'm in awe of how elite he is at every single sport. I'm a one-trick pony. I do one sport. This guy crushes it on every sport. So to answer your question with one word, versatility.
Sean, go ahead.
I appreciate that. I'd take Mike's salary. That would be number one. No, I mean, I think there's a reason why I believe it's 3 times in a row now that Mike has won the National Sports Emmy for play-by-play, in what Scott Van Pelt described on SportsCenter the other night as he was congratulating Mike as a very crowded category, and it really is. So, I mean, that's not just the way his peers feel about him. I think that's the way the audience feels about him. You know, I think I've always said our job is to enhance the viewer's enjoyment of the game and not detract from it. You know, and sometimes there is a fine line. You know, Mike is just, he's the best. And he's on all the technical play-by-play things, it's 100%. But, you know, he adds to your enjoyment of the game with the well-placed story, with his enthusiasm, with the ability, as you just said, bang, to punctuate the big moments. To me, that's one of the great tests of any great play-by-play person. How do you do in the biggest moments? And then his interaction with his teammates. You know, he brings the best out of the people that he works with, too. So, you know.
But the salary.
I think the Emmys. Yeah. I'd like the Emmys. Mm-hmm. I'd like the National Sportscaster.
But the money is what you want, really.
But the money is pretty much it.
Mike Breen and Sean McDonough are both with us here. Stanley Cup Finals get underway on Saturday. NBA Finals tomorrow. I'll say this in front of Sean because he's from Boston. Are you amazed, Mike Breen? Are you amazed that Boston as a city is so unlikable? A sports city is so unlikable that we have found a way to rally behind Kyrie Irving.
I have to leave now. I have my Celtics green on for a reason. I am a green teamer. I will be at game 1 with my pom-poms, heckling Kyrie Irving for what he did to this city. He should never be forgiven. He promised he was going to stay, and he left us. Wow. And then he stomped on the logo and all those other horrible things.
Jonathan, I could not disagree more. Jonathan. I mean, it's one of my favorite cities in the country. I love coming here. The atmosphere at the TD Garden is off the charts. They love their team as much as anybody. And as you know, when fans have this unbelievable love affair, sometimes it becomes irrational. But that's the way it is in all the great towns. But this place it's an amazing place to be during, not just in the arena, but walking around town, going to the restaurants last night. They're so into it. It's, to me, it fires me up.
But I think we were talking about this right before you guys came on, and I love Boston. I went to school in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm just saying, as a sports town, other cities.
University.
Clark University. Very well done.
Excellent school.
Yeah, I went there though, Sean.
3-point record.
When people don't get into Syracuse or Fordham, they go to Clark. Wow. That happens. It's okay.
Well done by you. But we were discussing right before you both came on. I was saying that Luka has no pressure to win an NBA championship this year. That I think it's all squarely on the Boston Celtics and Jason Tatum. Mike Breen, I'll start with you. Do you agree with that?
I don't understand the whole thing. Now, clearly they have pressure to win because they're in the finals, and this is their ultimate goal, and neither one of them have done that. But I just don't understand how it's going to make or break their reputation. I mean, Michael Jordan won his first title. He was 28. It was his 7th year. LeBron James won his first title. It was his 9th year. He was 27. I mean, Tatum's 26. Doncic is 25. You know, if neither one of them, you know, obviously one of them's going to win, but the one who doesn't win, maybe they don't win next year, but then maybe they win 3 or 4 in a row. I mean, to put that kind of pressure on somebody in their early 20s or mid 20s, and especially the kind of success Tatum has had, yes, he's fallen short. I never understand that. Obviously, the goal is to win the whole thing, and that's what they're trying for. But let their careers play out before we talk about, you know, did they come short of their potential?
Sean, what do you think as a fan, as someone who grew up in Boston?
Well, I think if they don't win, Jason Tatum's going to have to leave town. That's pretty much it. No, I agree with Mike. You know, he's a great player, one of the best players in the NBA, and obviously Doncic is too. I just don't want to sit too close to courtside tomorrow in case Doncic just starts screaming at people sitting near the court like he did in the Western Conference Final. But I do think there's a little bit of a narrative here in town. Yeah, Jason Tatum's great, but we need him to be great when it matters the most. And obviously this is when it's going to matter most. Celtics have been kind of around the championship conversation for several years now with this nucleus. And it's a lot more of a team than just Jason Tatum. I think they have a terrific team that Brad Stevens and the group have built here. But, the certainly here in town, if they don't win the championship this time, it'll be a huge disappointment. And I think Tatum will take a lot of the blame for that, whether it's fair or not.
Big Brother Breen, I think the pressure is on the front office, the Brad Stevens, and all these draft picks that they've spent to get to this point. So what do you think of that? I think that it may not be on Jason Tatum to perform right now, but I do think that front office should show and tell right now.
Well, the front office has done a magnificent job. He didn't win Executive of the Year, but you could have made a claim for it in terms of what they brought in. And again, here they are. They're in the finals in a year where nothing short of the finals would have been. I mean, that's all that mattered. Let's see how the finals play out. I mean, all different things can happen in terms of whether they win or lose. I just think that, to throw the definitive storyline because they win one year and don't win another year, that goes a little crazy for me. There are a lot of great players who never won a championship for some reason or another. Does it put you in a different level? Absolutely. If Jason Tatum averages 10 points a game in the finals and shoots 22% and they get swept, okay, then he deserves to be criticized. But let's wait and see how he handles himself. Let's wait and see how the whole series develops.
Sean, Greg Cody of the Miami Herald said that despite his 3 Hart trophies and despite all of his stats, Connor McDavid is overrated. In fact, he called him Mick overrated. What do you think about that?
Do we even have to respond to that?
No, we don't. We don't.
No? I think
you don't have an opinion?
He was saying it through the prism of he hasn't been in the Stanley Cup final yet. He's the best
maybe
player
I
in
was
the
just going to say, right, there's the parallel to Jason Tatum and I guess to a lesser extent to Doncic that, he's in his 9th year. He's only 27 years old. Mike's not the only one who's doing his prep there. Were you actually looking at the notes there, Mike, when you were?
He was.
That was very impressive. I like this. He's multitasking. He's preparing for the NBA final while being on a legendary program all at the same time. But no, not only is Connor McDavid not overrated, but last year and a half ago, when we were in beautiful Sunrise for the All-Star game, we had a room in the hotel. And the day before the game, many of the players were coming in for sound bites, and then I was just kind of chatting with them as they were going in and out to do a little preparation for the game. And I asked a lot of guys about McDavid, and Nathan McKinnon, who might be the second best player in the world, the Colorado Avalanche, said, everybody here is a great player. He said, but Connor McDavid is at a totally different level than everybody else in the National Hockey League. He is in his own place. And that comes from a guy who would probably like to be able to make the claim that he's the best player in the league if Connor McDavid wasn't alive. So he's not overrated. I think he's already one of the great players of all time, regardless of if he ever wins a championship. And I think it's great that he is in the Stanley Cup final for a lot of reasons. And I think the matchup of him and a very talented offensive team around him playing against this Florida team that just smothers you is going to be really fun to watch.
Mike, we'll get you out of here in just a second. Both of you, we'll get you out of here in just a second. Mike, do you want to announce?
Mike has nothing to do.
Well,
Mike has nothing.
No, you're both very, very busy. But I'm wondering, Sean, if Mike wants to throw his name into the hat for an NBA head coaching gig, because it seems like everyone he works with wants to leave Mike and go coach somewhere in the NBA. What's going on there?
I have my own coaching tree now. That's
If J.J. Redick indeed gets this job, you've been around him now, Mike, for a bit. So do you think he'll be a great head coach?
I do. It's his knowledge of the game is scary, and you can tell when he talks to coaches how they respond, when he talks to players how they respond, and you add that to his love of the game. And I'd always heard from anywhere he went when he played, he was a great teammate, so he understands all that. I mean, you never know until a guy's in the position, but I think he has all the characteristics to be a great head coach.
All right, on the way out here, we had Vince Scully on the show a couple of years ago, and I'm just interested because you guys are the best of the best, and so I want to see if something like this, something that happened to Vin, has ever happened to you. Let's play the sound first.
Back about my third year, about 1952, the Dodgers were playing Cincinnati, and Cincinnati had an outfielder named Lloyd Merriman. I'll never forget it. And Lloyd hit a ball foul, and my mind told me to say, hot shot hit foul.
No,
and it never came out that way. and everybody in the booth fell down, and I was absolutely mortified. And the reason I remember Lloyd Merriman, I started filling. He's a former Marine Air Corps pilot, saw combat in Korea. I did on and on. That really, that had to be, considering how young I was, that was about it.
Both of you are laughing. You both love Vince Scully. Mike,
Yes.
have you had a similar type moment? Sean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I should say I was at part of an embarrassing moment. I met Vince Scully and I was with Mike, and Mike asked Vince Scully, hey, Vin, what's it like to be the second best play-by-play guy ever to come out of Fordham? Which I thought was really uncomfortable, but
Just to hear that voice again. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Mike, I'll yield to you.
Yes. Have you had an embarrassing moment, Mike?
Well, we've all had numerous. I've had multiple. I mispronounced my own name on the air once.
It's Mike Breen. How?
That's hard to do. It just came out like Brun. For some reason, it came out. And these things do happen, unfortunately, too often.
Well, that was probably the heavy drinking before the game, which thankfully is part of your past now. So I think that's really good. I said something very similar to Vince Scully. I was thinking about, can you curse on the show? I mean,
yes, you can.
Yeah, I was doing it. It was actually a Red Sox game, but it was on ESPN. It was with Ray Knight, was the analyst, and Dwight Evans came up to bat. He had 2,299 career hits. So I wanted to say, here's Dwight Evans. He's one hit shy of 2,300 for his career. And I said, here's Dwight Evans. He's one high of 2,300.
That's a lot.
Let's end on that.
No, he was an older guy. I don't know what the rate is, but that would strike me as low for a guy who's
3,000. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Late in his career. Yeah. But, and it's the same kind of thing as, everybody else in the booth is laughing. And when you stumble over something, you have to play it back in your head. And then you realize, oh my God, that's what I just said, but yeah. So, and we've all, I'm sure we've had plenty more when you've done as many games as we have.
Guys, thank you for doing this. We appreciate it. Sorry Dan was not here, Mike. I'm sorry you're mad at me. My mom used to call me Jonathan when she was angry at me, which is what you're doing right now. But
Jonathan with love.
Yeah, Jonathan with love. But we thank both of you for doing this. Very busy time for you guys, and we appreciate you joining us here. NHL Stanley Cup Finals Saturday night. Sean will be on the call. NBA Finals tip-off tomorrow night. Mike will be on the call. Guys, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
You.
What do you guys make of what C.J. Stroud is doing? Seriously, because you have a quarterback in his second year, and quarterbacks don't say a thing.
What's he doing?
We've made fun of that. Well, he's being honest.
Well, but in what sense? Because he said a lot of things in a lot of places.
I don't think you traditionally hear a second-year quarterback, or really any quarterback for that matter, give his top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. I certainly don't think you hear a guy who hasn't won a Super Bowl himself say he'd rather have Eli's career over Aaron Rodgers' career. That Matthew Stafford would have done a lot more with those Packer teams than Aaron did. He seems to have a problem with Aaron Rodgers. He's not the only one, by the way. But he seems to have an issue with Aaron Rodgers. Just a quarterback talking the way he's talking without really doing much other than his fantastic rookie season. That's all. You typically don't hear quarterbacks talk. I mean, we know that. The first interesting thing Dan Marino says will be the first interesting thing that Dan Marino says.
Well, no, the next interesting thing that he says will be the first.
Also the first, yeah,
I think
you know what I mean.
Joe Burrow's a good
Thanks,
example.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's a good example of a quarterback that he came into the league and was really good, really quick, and he didn't do what CJ's doing. Like, he didn't, I'm popular now, let me go out and hit the podcast scene. And
No.
like, is CJ, does he have a podcast? Because that could be what he's doing, of trying to get out there as someone who's interesting. I have to look that up, but he's definitely doing something.
Joe Burrow is putting a lot of pressure on himself this year, in my opinion. He's coming off of an injury. He kind of needs to, actually him? Is he going to recover from the injury? Also his hair. The hair that he's coming into this season with, he needs to succeed. He cannot be a flop with that hair this year.
There are rumors of a breakup, too.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
We don't know anything, but there's been a lot of chatter.
So is that why he's growing out the hair?
Potentially.
Interesting.
You really perk up at hair.
Well, I got a haircut. Nobody noticed, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Roy did.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
He just didn't say anything.
No, Roy
No, he
noticed that she
didn't.
did her nails, which she did not.
I'm just talking.
I thought about it.
Guys, I'm just talking in general. Roy, we were doing the show for a long time. We always thought we make fun of Ryan Tannehill because he doesn't say a thing. And now you have a quarterback who's saying a ton of things, but he doesn't have any rings. And he's talking about quarterbacks who do have rings. And he's telling us which one is better, who's better, whose career he'd rather have.
He's talking about a quarterback with a ring in Aaron Rodgers, saying he should have more rings.
And Eli has 2. And he's saying he'd rather have Eli's career. Aaron Rodgers has won 4 MVPs. Aaron Rodgers has been to the NFC Championship game 5 times. He has lost 4 of those.
He's considered to be the best by some people.
So this is how I do it. Like many, many years from now, I will have a sit down with my grandson. Okay?
You will.
And it better be many, many years from now.
Or granddaughter.
Okay, or granddaughter.
Or none, if your daughters don't have
My
children.
grandchild.
Talk to yourself.
My grandchild. Thank you for correcting me.
Depending also on the state of your, mental capacities.
Yeah.
You could be talking to yourself.
Yes.
Thinking you're talking to a
What are you
child.
doing to Stugotz right here? He's going to be very
The
sane,
same thing he
very
does to
able.
everyone.
Come on,
Yes.
go ahead.
So many, many years from now,
With a
we
heater.
will have a sit down, and my grandchild will hopefully ask me, Dad, who are the greatest quarterbacks of all time?
You're on a rocking chair.
Granddad, not dad.
I'm on a rocking chair.
Grandchild won't call you dad. Then there's
They'll say
definitely something that needs
they'll
to be
say
looked
grandpa,
Kids
papa,
on your lap.
Yeah.
I'm trying to paint the
Yeah.
picture here.
into. Yeah.
And they'll say, listen, grandpa, who are the greatest quarterbacks of all time?
Pop, pop.
And I will tell you that I will list a number of quarterbacks, including Aaron Rodgers, before the name Eli Manning comes out of my mouth.
Yeah, but at the time, the greatest quarterback's going to be someone named like Skateboard Smith or something. You know what I mean? Like, so they're going to not be listening to any of this. You're like, what are you talking about? Who the hell is CJ Stroud?
It will be CJ Stroud.
Think about the advertising opportunities for Skateboard Smith.
If skateboards are still a thing back then, or in the future.
Back then?
Yeah, then.
Back to the future.
Back to
Stu, not only that, he also kind of went after Aaron Rodgers personally, $2 million worth of game with Wallow and Gilly. He came out and said the reason why he doesn't have as many rings as other quarterbacks is because he was kind of a bad teammate. So he throws him under the bus on, I know Brady's a good teammate. Why? He has all those rings. Why does Aaron Rodgers only have 1 ring? He's not that good of a teammate.
A lot of look at me Louis stuff from CJ Stroud here.
That's what I'm saying.
I saw
There
DeMarco
you
Murray was talking with the media a couple days ago, and he's like, "Oh, big difference in CJ this year. This year he's stopping drills down when it doesn't look right. He's like, everyone, come here." Like he's just, I don't know.
Wait,
just
he's being a leader as a quarterback and a
but
face of a
there's line.
franchise? Like you don't
There's
want
a
him to do
line.
that?
There's a line.
Lead less, Chris is saying.
There's a
A
line.
line.
How about have some respect? I mean,
He commands respect now.
Who would you rather be if you could switch bodies with either person? Would you rather switch bodies right now with Aaron Rodgers or with Eli Manning?
Just bodies, not like brain.
That's part of his body.
Oh, then yeah, Eli probably.
You'd rather be
well,
Eli.
I think
say
Eli's
Eli,
richer too.
Eli's richer?
Yeah, because the
I don't know
Omaha.
about that.
Omaha, he's making so much
Aaron's
money.
made Aaron's made a ton.
But
Yeah, but Eli's
Aaron's-
got post-career money
yeah,
that he's
Aaron's
making.
not going to get any endorsements again ever.
The internet's
we'll never
telling
see him on a State Farm
internet is
commercial
telling
again.
me Eli's net worth is 160 million.
That
What's
can't-
Aaron's?
that's
And
not right.
growing, though. That's the
That's-
difference.
Eli made more than that.
Well, your
don't
net
think
worth
so.
is not always everything you made.
Well,
You have
what's
to spend
Aaron's?
money on stuff.
I think the
Aaron's
Jets.
signed deals bigger than 160.
He signed them twice, I think. Yes. I believe the Jets play the Texans. That's going to be a doozy.
It says 200 for Aaron.
He's got 252 worth of career earnings in the NFL.
But I do agree, like the
Future earnings
right.
is so pro Eli.
Yeah, Omaha Productions. If is that 50-50? Because
I have no idea.
it's always kind of
It
like
always feels way more Peyton.
Yeah.
But also you
Wonder
have
what the
Arch
split is.
you have
Eli-
Arch Manning coming up. This family, all the marketing opportunities, they're about to skyrocket.
Eli made $252 million in his career, so he has blown $90 million, and that's why his net worth is $90 million less than
I
he
don't know,
made.
I'm
I
just-
find that hard to believe.
Why do you have it if you don't spend it?
I don't know if you can trust any of these celebrity
No,
net
you
worth
can't.
sites, but
But their number is growing because of what they're doing post-career. Aaron can still do – I understand what you're saying about the sponsors. If Aaron wants to do a show or be an analyst, like someone's going to hire him. I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers.
Until they kick him off. He'll do something that's going to be like,
You don't think so?
I think Aaron.
I think he has enough money to do whatever he wants and not worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
no,
both
yes.
rich. I would like both of their bank accounts.
Yes,
Happily.
But I do think that I think that people definitely would be hesitant to give him like a Sunday NFL kickoff job, wondering what he could say and what position he could put them in.
I like this. I like putting ourselves in the room when Eli and Peyton were like doing the pie chart on Omaha Productions, because Peyton's like, I'm Peyton, like.
Yeah, but
you're
Eli was so close to having 2 rings and Peyton only having
I'm just
one.
saying.
Right?
I feel like that's 60-40. If I'm Peyton, I go in 60-40, right? You're good with that?
If
And
Eli, I'm
takes
good
that.
with that. I'm like, yeah, you do all the work. I don't care. We'll just
Exactly.
show up once a week.
You think it's 60-40?
We'll do Eli's places or whatever.
60%
it's
of
probably
Peyton's
like
money, though.
70-30.
Really?
That's when
Yeah,
Eli
well,
pushes
like-
back. That's when Eli's like 65-35.
Yeah, like what does Eli Manning do within Omaha? I'm asking.
Well, he
Jim-
hosts the main show.
He
I
is
mean,
the likable
Yes.
one on.
Right.
But I don't know if he does anything else. Like when I see all those like EP credits that Peyton Manning gets, I never see
It's all
Eli.
Peyton.
He does
Yeah,
like the
but-
Radio Row hits. Like
That's
you guys
also-
had
But
Eli
he's
on.
also in
Yes,
the
we did.
Corona commercials, I believe.
Yeah.
We had him on because of Jabba Chamberlain.
There's some EP credits though that are phony EP
Yeah.
credits.
For
You know,
Eli,
you
you're
just
saying?
in general,
For Peyton.
just general.
Just
Yeah.
putting his name on it because he's the
You
boss.
just put EP
Right.
next to some whatever reason.
Like
But
Chris
it-
Cody, intern.
Like with CJ, it's so confusing because he's doing the rings thing, and I should be proud of him, but he doesn't have any rings, and he shouldn't be doing the ring thing.
I have a question
What's that, Billy?
for this show, and it's something that has been discussed multiple times, and
Yes.
it is in relation to JJ Redick. And I guess rumors yesterday that the Lakers hired him, even though they haven't yet, or maybe they have, but they're not announcing that they
No-
have.
no official
There seemed to be
reports.
yesterday like this buzz, like he had gotten hired. But
He's
that
hired,
has not
though.
been reported.
I don't
think
care if it's reported
the
or not.
report
JJ
was-
Redick's going to be the next head coach of the Lakers.
It was one of
That's
those
it.
reports that's not a report. It's like they're circling in.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was just.
So here's my question, because we've discussed this, and Dan's discussed this in particular in regards to JJ Redick. He said JJ Redick will make more in his media career than he did as a basketball player. This is now kind of halting that, at least for the moment. His media career, you would think, is now on hold, right? Like, I do not think he's going. You think he's going to continue to do a podcast?
You could Doug Gottlieb it. He's head coach.
So
at
Billy was
Green
not
Bay
aware
now.
that Gottlieb took a head coaching job
Yeah.
and is still doing his radio show.
I
Yeah.
did not know that.
Yeah.
Where's he at? Green Bay or something?
Yeah, he's at Green Bay and he's still doing the radio show.
Packers.
Yeah, but the Lakers' job is slightly different than head coach of whatever school, right? Is it not? Wisconsin, Green Bay?
Yes.
That's a different job.
Yes.
You think he's still going to be doing it? Ooh, and how about this? If LeBron
Well, I think that's up to
stays-
LeBron.
If LeBron stays with the Lakers, LeBron hates all his coaches. We can say that confidently, right? I don't think that we're painting with a broad brush there. He does. If he doesn't dislike them at the beginning, he grows to dislike all of his coaches, right?
Fair.
No way it would be must listen to if he hated them. The two of them, player and coach, having a podcast together on the same team, right?
Electric.
No way that happens, though.
Not only that, maybe what LeBron is doing is hiring JJ Redick so that way they can in turn Draft Bronny. JJ Redick goes, hey, you scratched my back.
It's
I'll
part of the
scratch
deal,
yours.
right?
Let's get Bronny.
Get me
in.
the
I'm gonna
gig
give you
and
a
I'll
nice
hire
deal.
and I'll draft your son.
I
Yeah.
think JJ says no, and that's where the first rift is.
I think LeBron says yes to them continuing the podcast.
Well,
And if it's a no, then and LeBron needs a co-host, I'm here for him.
And if LeBron
There we
goes
go.
to Portland, then they can't.
Right.
you could break down X's and O's like JJ.
Of course. We love Steve Levy. He has been on with me and Billy several times. He has joined us on the show with Le Batard a few times as well. He is a friend. He was mad at me because I told him this would be video, and that meant he had to put on a shirt. Good day, Steve Levy.
I had to change shirts. This is my good shirt.
Oh,
You can
okay.
imagine what I was wearing before.
Please tell us. What were you wearing before?
You don't want to see me in a Butcher Gross tank top, okay? It's not as good.
Steve, before you came to Sunrise, Florida for the first time, did you think Sunrise, Florida was paradise?
So look, I've been going to South Florida for a long, long time. So I was definitely surprised. Again, I go back to the original Panthers days. So when they first moved out to the arena, it was probably the very first time I was in Sunrise. I think they had illegal seafood there in that mall across the
They
street.
did, Steve. God, did I love that place.
They still do,
Yeah.
don't they? No.
It's been closed for like 10 years.
Having my Boston roots, it's
Let it
illegal.
run.
I'm like, all right, we can go get some chowder there. We'll be okay, So
Yeah.
I did not think it was paradise. I've always questioned why the arena was put there. And listen, it's a great arena, and the fan base has been terrific. And obviously, all they do is win now down there. City of Champions, Sunrise. And
No one calls it that.
No one
No, they don't
he
call
knows
it
that.
that?
It's why he said it. Yeah.
it's not the City of Champions.
No.
We stayed at that AC Marriott early in the playoffs, right
Steve.
across the street. And so let's just say it's conveniently located. Let's put it that way. How we doing?
All right. At the end of this interview, if I may, I'm going to ask you your top 5 things to do in Sunrise, Florida. Okay? I mean, because
Give
you've
me
been
some time to think about it. Can
Well,
it be
you
top 2?
It could be top 2. That's fine. Yes.
Okay.
Top 2 is fine. Roy has been telling me confidently that the Panthers are the best team in hockey, and he's been saying it all year. Is he right?
Well, if he's been saying it all year, that's really impressive. They are the best team in hockey right now. And they've been probably since the start of the playoffs, I would say. They are the best team in hockey. I can't believe how good they are. And maybe that's on me that I shouldn't be surprised. But they are the best team. They were so much better than the Rangers. To me, that series felt like a sweep. And were so impressive in every facet of the game. If not for Shesterkin, there are blowouts in that series, and it's definitely a 4-game sweep. So, yes, Florida is the best team in hockey.
Well, there's 2 teams right now, though, Steve.
What's the question?
They're best,
Well, Billy's
but they're
saying
best
it has
of
to be
2,
one of the 2. It has to be the
Giants,
Panthers
yeah.
or Edmonton.
No, it doesn't have to. You could be the best team in hockey and go out in an early round or something.
Yes.
Things happen in hockey. Weird stuff.
Correct. I would say in all the sports, you're right. The best team does not always win in that sport, and so you are correct. In other sports, that's not the case. But in hockey, a team that's not the most talented wins all the time.
That's why you see the 8 seed win the Stanley Cup from time to time. It happens probably every 10 years. I think Chicago did it. The Kings might have done it. So anyway, the point is it doesn't happen in the other sports. Almost impossible to be the 8th seed in the NBA and win the championship. It does happen in hockey based on injuries and, the other team having a hot goalie. And then, the rest of the team might not be that great, but you have the best goalie you could win on those nights. So anyway.
Steve, a quote in one of our co-hosts, Greg Cody's article went viral in Canada today. Apparently, he believes that despite the fact that he's a 3-time MVP and has all the stats, Connor McDavid is overrated because he hasn't won a Stanley Cup yet. In fact, he called him Mick overrated. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a terrible nickname. That's my first thought. No, he can't be overrated. He's the best player in hockey. I don't think you can be overrated. Now, look, he does need this for his career. He does need it to cement his career. And his career might, he might be halfway, guys. this might be still his prime in his 9th season, which is pretty remarkable. So we'll see. I don't believe he's overrated. I do believe he's the best player in the sport, and is cracking into, already top 10 and maybe could be one of the top 5 greatest players in hockey history. So think about that for a second. So you can't be overrated, but I think he does need the Stanley Cup at some point to cement his legacy.
Greg came out earlier to clarify his statements. He said he's an underachiever. Does that sound better? Does that feel better to you?
I mean, again, hockey, it's hard to in hockey, it's hard to put it on one guy. Like, he wasn't getting a lot of help for a lot of years. And now he's getting, more help. And guys have matured and stepped up, and some acquisitions have worked out there, and goaltending and all those kinds of things. It's why hockey is special, because it is so different from the other sports. And regardless of who you are, Wayne Gretzky, didn't win the Stanley Cup every single season, right? And in fact, I think he only won 4 Stanley Cups. Only, I say.
Yeah,
only. But I think that's, here's the greatest player without question, who played, he played 20 years in the NHL. So 16 of those years, he didn't win a championship. So you do have to have some help. Even the greatest, forwards in the sport can only play really, 21, 22 minutes. That's a third of the hockey game. So defensemen actually can play a larger role. Because, guys like Gustav Forsling, who's, we need to talk about. Like, PK wants to put him in the Conn Smythe potential, and he's right about it. Gustav Forsling has been unbelievable. And I still think, when you talk about an underrated guy and a name people don't know, they have to know about him now, because we're talking about him every night.
Steve, there were some complaints about the ESPN, your version of the ESPN broadcast being too pro New York.
Complaints about ESPN? No, can't be.
Never happened before.
It seems like you guys were being too pro Rangers in this situation. In fact, you made a joke about it. I mean, obviously, you got Mark Messier on the broadcast. Obviously, he's going to be pro Rangers. It seems like PK Subban, during the Eastern Conference Final, he was on the side of Florida. Do you agree with that?
Well, I'd say we really do try to play it down the middle. And, if we had Brian totally Scroodland on our panel, or Billy Lindsay, we might have more fun.
That's a nickname, Levy. That's how you do it. Teach Greg Cody.
You try to go down the middle as you have a Jets
Chris
poster
Berman.
behind you and a Buffalo Spirits shirt on.
That's a Chris Berman nickname. Back in the day when Boomer was on our coverage and the players loved it, he would do his nicknames like he did for Major League Baseball. Totally Scroodland always reminds me of that. So, listen, I think, the Rangers were a story for a long time, sort of team of destiny. But, I got into it on Twitter, or X, whatever we're calling it now, with some Florida fans who would give me a hard time about how that we were not impartial according to him. I'm like, listen, how many times can we say Florida's the better team in the series? Florida's been the dominant team. We can't talk more about Sasha Barkov being a monster forward in, all 3 zones. And we can't talk enough about Gustav Forsling. Like, we're all over it. Every time we interview a player, it was a Panther. It was Bennett or Kachuk. The Rangers have very little personality and flavor in terms of interviews. We were talking to Florida players, pregame every single night. So, no, I think that charge is unfair. Messier, obviously, and this is another tricky series for us because of his Edmonton roots, so we'll see how we play that. But I thought we were right down the middle, and we give full marks to the better team. And again, like I said before, Florida should have swept the series. That's how good the Panthers were.
You've been around this game for a very long time. You love hockey, and I'm wondering, we were discussing this. Does Canada rally together when they're playing a team from the United States, or are the people in Montreal not rooting for the team in Edmonton?
So that's a great question. And that'll be a real storyline. I saw Gretz say this the other night, that all of Canada will be behind them. And look, maybe it will be because it's, Alberta's kind of friendly. You know what I mean? Edmonton, Calgary, they all get along. But I know when it was Vancouver against Boston, Montreal and Toronto were not in. And if Toronto ever made it to the Stanley Cup final, Montreal would not be rooting for them, and so on and so forth. So, Winnipeg is a nice story. Maybe Canada would get behind little Winnipeg, but that's not the case. So I'm really not sure what the story will be there. I think it's good for the game it's good for the game on a lot of areas, right? So Florida Panthers are the best team in hockey. We've got them. We've got the best player in the Stanley Cup final. We have a Canadian market in the Stanley Cup final. No team from Canada has won the Stanley Cup since 1993. So that's 31 years ago. And that was Montreal beating Barry Melrose and Wayne Gretzky and those LA Kings. And since that time, no Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup. They've only been in it a few times since. So it's interesting to watch from that perspective. But I can't tell you for sure if all of Canada is behind the Edmonton Oilers. Calgary would be the litmus test, right? Because that Battle of Alberta, that's fierce, that's real. Matthew Tkachuk will absolutely be abused by the crowd in Edmonton. See what Evander Kane has to say about all that from their history from the Calgary-Edmonton series and games in the past. So, but that'll be a fun storyline to watch.
Well, who else is going to have to step up for the Oilers in this series? I mean, you got McDavid, you got Draisaitl, you got Hyman. Who else is going to have to step up? Is it going to be Kane?
Hyman. So Evan Bouchard has been really, really good. I think he is, a year or two away from catapulting himself in the Norris Trophy consideration. But to me, Stuart Skinner is the story. He really improved against Dallas. He really showed he belonged. He looked so confident. People will forget in the series prior against Vancouver, Stuart Skinner was pulled. I mean, he did not start games 4 and 5 of a series. Career backup journeyman Calvin Pickard started. And at that point, you're thinking, all right, they're done with Skinner. How can you go back to him? And yet they do go back to him in, I believe, games 6 and 7 of that series. And he winds up winning it and has been really good ever since. Stuart Skinner's a really likable guy. He's had his ups and downs. He's not an old guy. He's a young guy. I think he's like 25 or 26. And to me, he'll be among the top storylines in this series because you know what you're getting from Bob for the Panthers in goal. And Stuart Skinner is an easy guy to root for. And I think somebody else to watch for in the series, he's obviously not on the ice, but is the coach, Chris, don't call me Chuck Knobloch, who started the hockey season in Hartford as the minor league coach here in Connecticut, ESPN's home team, the Hartford Wolfpack. And Edmonton started off the season in brutal shape. They changed the coach. They go on to win 16 in a row. So the coach, the experienced coach in Paul Maurice, who we love his press conferences, against now Chris Knobloch, who's not even had a full season in the NHL. I think that's another good storyline to watch for.
All right, we have 15 seconds, which is all it takes to tell us your top 2 things to do in Sunrise. So go ahead.
I'm going to wait till the last 2 seconds of the 15.
It's
now.
there. Oh, you missed it.
Is there a P.F. Chang's in that moment?
Oh, there is.
Oh, there is. Yes, there is.
Joy,
And a
man.
Grand Lux.
Come on.
Mongolian beef.
Only beef, and not the brown rice either. If you're going to have it with the white rice, people.
You're right.
Yeah.
How do you feel about
Brown
splitting
rice
a
guy.
meal with somebody? How do you feel about that?
Who's that somebody?
Chris Cody said he's ashamed of himself because he walks in and he splits meals now with his wife.
I've become the guy that I walk in, I'm like, hey, you want to split something? I don't like what I see when I do it.
Yeah, so I have started doing that.
Yes.
The camera adds 15 pounds, and I got a lot of cameras on me at all times, as you know. If I go to a buddy with a steakhouse and we go out, we'll have a couple of salads and appetizers, we might split a massive tomahawk. Is that what we're talking about? Then if that's the case, yes, I do that.
No, that's what you should do. One of those tomahawk ribeye steaks that are for like 17 people. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Split that then. I split, yeah.
Yeah, steakhouse is fine. You could split at a steakhouse. I think it's the Cheesecake Factory where Chris was ashamed of himself.
Yeah, I'm not splitting at the Cheesecake, no.
Have you had that shepherd's pie, though? I mean, the one in Sawgrass I'm talking about.
No, I haven't. I'll put it on the list.
You should. So
now I got 3 things I want to do in Sunrise. Yeah.
Right. Well, if you need a Ford or a Chevrolet, there's one right down the street from your hotel.
Good to know.
Yes. All right. Series prediction, Steve Levy, on the way out. Panthers best team in hockey, as we've established. Edmonton might have the 2 best players. Who's going to win the series?
I got Florida in 7. It's a really good series. really close games. I'm hoping we get some high-scoring games. Listen, I know we don't have the markets in the U.S. Everybody was talking about New York and Dallas. But in terms, and this won't make the executives feel any better at our place, but in terms of hockey, the hockey will be grade A. The environment in Edmonton will be out of control. I hope Sunrise in Florida in the giant building the Panthers play in can match it.
Oh, we got it.
But the hockey will be outstanding. There will be some nastiness. It should be an excellent Stanley Cup final.
Was there a very small part of Steve Levy, as someone who has to travel back and forth to these games, that was kind of hoping deep down inside, didn't say it out loud, didn't say it at cocktail parties, but was thinking to himself, man, I hope Dallas wins?
I think he's in studio.
No, we'll be on the road. We travel for the Cup. Come on, man.
Yeah, I know.
We're the worldwide leader in sports. We got to get out of Bristol.
Listen, we're 3 years removed. We forgot, okay? We're sorry. Okay?
I've been in the studio the whole time.
Not so much Dallas, but if we're being honest, look, the New York thing was attractive. I could drive to the games at the Garden. I could see my kids before they take off for summer camp. There were some redeeming qualities in the personal Levy household for Rangers. But once I had to get on a plane, then it really didn't matter. And so Edmonton, Florida, here we come. Lots of frequent flyer miles and bad pretzels.
All right. Well, enjoy Sunrise. Enjoy Edmonton. Enjoy the series. It should be a great series.
You guys will be at every game, right? We'll see you in Sunrise?
Yeah. Well, Billy's trying to get a credential.
Edmonton, yeah.
I'll be there.
Right, yeah.
I'll be there.
But Roy will be
Stugotz,
there.
I can't hear you. Where are you going to be exactly?
On my couch.
I'll say hi, all right? I'll mention your name. I'll drop you in there.
Oh, well, then I'll be there if you're going to do that, okay? We got a deal. All right. You'll say hi to me?
Sure.
On air.
I'll be hi. Okay, so that's great. What a
Didn't see that
deal.
coming.
I don't have to go to the game. I get to take a gummy, Valhalla, 40 milligrams, and Steve Levy will give me a shout-out. I appreciate it. If you need a Chevy or a Ford, I know the GM at both places. I got you covered, okay?
You got a guy. Sounds
right.
great.
I do. All right. Thank you, Steve.
See you, pal. Be well, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, buddy.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.